The other day, I referenced drinking out of cups.
I know that one.
I was like, Jesus, fuck.
That is an antique. Be careful with that one.
Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And I am Maddy Grace Webbin.
It's good to be back, guys. I skipped last week, and it makes it feel like I skipped forever.
Yes.
Because except for the large chunk of time where I skipped every episode, I don't really ever skip episodes, so missing one, I'm like, oh my god, the entire world like moves on without me. What do you mean I'm not the main character?
I get that for sure. Yeah.
But I'm back and ready to talk about the fourth section of Brace Story New Traveler, covering chapters 7 and 8, mostly chapter 8 by a landslide. But before we get to all of that, how is you guys' week?
Well, aside from the day I just had, which was... whew, I had a rough day this morning. It didn't get better until like 3:30, at which point I could finally log into Final Fantasy. Long story, not going into it. Everything will be okay. I'm just kind of shaken up.
It'll be fine. And I think you made good decisions too. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I feel better hearing that because I still feel like an asshole.
Yeah, just because someone tells you you're an asshole or someone else feels like you're an asshole doesn't actually mean you are one. Now, sometimes it does. Telling the difference between those two concepts can be difficult. But I'm on team. You're not the asshole this time.
Thank you.
Yeah. In general, I feel Eli is very rarely the asshole, despite what Eli says.
Yeah.
Well, and see, that's the thing too. Is like
thumb. If you tell me, if you just come in and be like, someone's mad at me and thinks I'm an asshole, without giving the details, I'm probably just like, oh, fuck them.
I need you two in my life for that reason. I feel kind of bad, too, because I feel like, everybody's only getting my side of the story. Everybody who I know, except for one specific person. But, I tried to be as honest about both sides as possible, and I know that's not always going to be the case. Like, everybody has biases. Mm-hmm. But I do my level best to represent both sides and to accept fault when it occurs.
I've been in that situation before. It's like, I've been in situations where someone was treating me so obviously badly that when I told the story as objectively as possible, in my head I'm like, this person probably thinks I'm exaggerating this story. But no, that is actually how it was. They really were that big of a jerk, Yeah. But it's like, if I heard someone tell me this story, I'd be like, is that really true, or are you just telling your side? But yeah, right. I mean, the fact that you're trying to be so even-handed about it, I mean, a lot of people don't do that. So
yeah, you're like better than 95% of everyone else just for trying to see both sides.
Well, thank you. I did the best that I could with what information I had.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't get too in your head though, because it's so easy to try and double, triple, reverse loop around, reverse engineer what the other person's thinking, and really, you don't know what the other person's thinking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, that was a lot of the problem that occurred, not on my end, but on the other. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very rough day, but got through it. Nothing else happened. Oh, I did a performance in Final Fantasy the other day, and oh god, that was fun. Yeah, so partway through the show, like several songs before my set was coming up, my computer decided to blue screen.
No!
And it had been doing that to me, and I thought that upgrading the graphics drivers would fix it, and it did for a little bit, but then it started doing the blue screens again, and it turns out I had a shitty USB. Like, that was the whole problem. Ken moved my keyboard out of its current USB. We found out because when we put the computer in safe mode, the keyboard wouldn't type. And so he put it in another USB, and magically it worked. And so I did have another blue screen after that, but since then there's been none. And I think that one was just because, like, shit was fucked up from all the previous blue screens. But yeah, it has not been a problem since, but it was very stressful. Thankfully, the showrunners were understanding and able to adjust, so I appreciate that. But it was a lot to deal with this week. But otherwise, not really much going on.
Yeah, I'm glad that you have isolated incidents and not just shitty weeks like you had for a while there.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
What about you, Maddy? How was your week?
Continuation of the previous week, pretty much. Moving in, done a lot of home improvement. This week, it's actually kind of extremely cool. I'm gonna send y'all some pictures. So there are 3 big home improvement projects I had to do over the last week. Me and my partner, right? The first was we have me being a vain ass bitch, am always wanting to put on good fits and look cute and take pictures of them, but I've never owned a full body length mirror, so it's always kind of hard to really get a really good picture of yourself, right? Or just to see if you look good or not. So one of my things I was wanting to buy was a full size mirror. And when me and my partner were at a thrift store a little while ago, like a few weeks ago, I don't remember exactly, looking for various things, including like a desk, we saw a enormous mirror. Like, holy moly, this thing is huge. I don't know the dimensions, but just imagine an enormous fucking mirror. And really wide too, wider than necessary, frankly. The height was great. The width was like, wow, that's a widthy boy. Anyway, so we asked how much it is, and they're like, oh, it's $65. And I don't know if you've bought a mirror before, but that's a really good price. Very, very, very good price for an enormous goddamn mirror. So me and my partner were kind of like, we briefly had a conversation of like, okay, but where would we put it? Like, it's so big, where on earth would we put this damn thing? We don't exactly know what our layout is of our house yet. We're still arranging things and doing home decorating. But eventually we're like, look, we will figure out what to do with it later. We can't let a good deal like this pass us by. So we bought it. And then we had to figure out what the hell to do with it. So we ended up finding a spot where we could mount it. And it's 40 pounds. And
Jesus.
Yeah, and I've never, I understand the concepts of home decorating and of doing like DIY projects and stuff. And in fact, when I was a kid living back in my hometown, I did a lot of things, but I was usually helping someone else, like my dad, like someone in my dad's church is doing some stuff on their house, and we go over just to help. So I'm pretty handy with a hammer, with the screwdriver, with a level, with a nail gun, with all kinds of things. I've got a lot of experience doing that kind of stuff, but it has been like a decade, right? And I've never been in charge of doing it myself. So it's like, yeah, I understand the concept of using a stud finder to find studs and make sure you don't accidentally hit a nail. Yes, I understand the concept of drywall screws, right? But being in charge of doing it yourself, it's like, oh, if we fuck this up, it'll like ruin our wall, right? Or worse. Yeah. So it was really stressful, and it took a lot of double checking and triple checking and measuring and marking and blah blah blah. But long story short, we completed all 3 of our home improvement projects 100% perfectly with no problems, basically.
Nice.
We put up a giant fucking mirror. We put up 4 shelves. My partner had the very smart idea of putting up these shelves way high up for our like aesthetic items, like our items that were not like useful items, just literally like our plushies and stuff. So check these out. I'm sending them. So these are the 3 that are in our bedroom. Take a look at the chat.
Those are awesome.
You got this one that is literally just a billion different Stitches. Stitch as in from Lilo and Stitch, because my partner's really into Stitch. Then we have the one that is mostly my partner's stuff, except with the This Is Fine dog and a Pinkie Pie, which are mine. And then you have the other shelf, which is mostly my stuff, except for the Reptar, which is theirs.
Nice.
But then we have one more, which is in the living room for all to see. It is very cursed, and I am both extremely upset by it, and also I think it's hilarious. So this is in the living room.
Oh no! Oh, I hate it.
It's the Garf zone. Yeah, just a bunch of Garfs. My girlfriend really likes Garfield and has a bunch of Garf plushes and a bunch of Garfield and Friends DVDs, and they are right there in the living room, gazing upon you with their weird eyes.
That is.
So we put up those shelves, had a really good time figuring out where to put them, finding places to put them. It turns out when you live in a really small place, it's a lot less wall space, but you don't have fewer wires. You got the same amount of wires you would normally have. There's just not as much wall space. So what I'm saying is the percentage of usable wall space is like a lot smaller. But anyway, so we did that, and then we put up the mirror, and then yesterday, we spent all of yesterday building this. I'm sending a couple things, one of which is a video that you can either watch or not. I don't care, but it's the best video. We built a giant box in our kitchen / living room. That is my girlfriend's little private zone that they can be in to do their stuff, like work and blah blah blah, like like what I do here in my bedroom. And we did a lot of plywood. There's literally like a wall and a roof. It was gonna go all the way up to the top, like the wall was gonna go up to the ceiling, but there's a fucking fan in the way. So we were fans. Like, fuck. So we have to give it a ceiling, which means you got to worry about like structural integrity, right? Anyway, we did that all yesterday, and it was really fun, actually. Like planning for it and going to Home Depot 3 times and getting everything cut right, and then realizing you cut one wrong and having to go back. That's all stressful and sucks. But the actual building part was fun, because physical labor, doing stuff with your hands, it's fun. And
it's so
especially
fun
when you're doing it with someone that you love, So we had a really good time doing it, and I felt really cool because, like, again, like, we did it all by ourselves, and it turned out really well. There's a few parts where, like, oh, this part's a little crooked, this part's a little misaligned, that obviously could have been better. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, extremely pleased with how it all turned out. Also very tired. Yesterday I did that. I did that at like... So my yesterday was this. I wake up it was Easter, right? I wake up at like 8 a.m. and start getting ready and getting a cute outfit and doing... Well, I didn't end up doing makeup, but I thought about doing makeup and then didn't have time. Getting a cute outfit, getting jewelry, and I do that so that I can get in my car by around 9:25 and drive 35 minutes to a town about half an hour north of here so that I could canvas for 3 hours. Because my local DSA chapter has, well, actually the whole statewide chapter is really ramping up its big campaign to win a Medicare for All universal healthcare system in California. Sorry to everyone out in California, but we have a really dope bill in our state legislature that could actually lead to having universal healthcare. That would be awesome. So I do that for 3 fucking hours.
That'd be so dope.
And then I drive home, and then I eat too much lunch and crash for 3 or 4 hours, and then I do this for like 6 or 7 hours. So all of my muscles hurt. But like in a good way, right? So point is, I'm having a good ass time. Other than that, nothing interesting has happened.
Nice. So my last 2 weeks have been wild. So I got my stimmy, got my income tax.
Hell yeah.
Got like $12,000 that I could just spend on whatever I want. So paid all of my debt.
Beautiful.
Got not all of like student debt, but all of my like
credit card stuff.
Liquid debt, or credit cards and stuff like that. So I paid those off, paid a bunch of bills out in advance, and most importantly, built me a new computer. So I go on PC Parts Picker because that's where I always go, and I look at one of their suggested builds, and I look at all of the details for it, and it looks good enough for me because I'm not like a power user that needs like the tiny tick more on like hertz you can get for getting this exact brand of blah blah blah. Like it looks good enough, and it'll do good enough. That's fine with me. So I click add all to cart, and I hit buy, and it's like, we were unable to add 2 items to your cart. And I look, and it was the graphics card. It said the graphics card was sold out, and the RAM was sold out. So I looked for the RAM on Best Buy, and it was there. So I grabbed it, and I looked at graphics cards, and I had heard that because of Bitcoiners ruining the entire environment, that it was really hard to get graphics cards. I didn't realize that it was like way worse than it is, because like PS5s were hard to get, but Sony is the only person that makes PS5s. Everybody in the world wants one, so every person has, or every retailer has specific like things built in place for the PS5, or like, oh, we have special keys for it and stuff like that.
The infrastructure.
It is a much smaller percentage of people that want graphics cards, so there was a lot less of the like, oh, just sign up and get
that sucks.
Get an email. So it was like super frustrating, and it also isn't like Target restocks on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, get your finger ready on your Target app on your phone, just in case the alert goes live, and you can press it and try and get it from Target. There also aren't as many places, like computer specialty parts stores are definitely not essential businesses, so most of them are not open right now. So I can't like go into a Best Buy and buy a graphics card when it comes in. It's all online, and so it was like this really stressful thing. And I had joined a Discord for it, because the Discord is what helped me get my PS5. So I joined the Discord, and people in there were like, I've been trying to get a 3080 since like for 2 years almost. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I am not going to sit here hoping every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for a drop from Best Buy. I can't do it.
Bullshit.
I don't know what I'm going to do. So I saw on Newegg that they had pre-built computers, because pre-built computers have the fancy graphics cards in them, but they are less like most people aren't buying them because it's all garbage parts that they put in it around the good graphics card, because they're just trying to trick people exactly like me, who want the graphics card but are willing to pay more for it but don't want to just go to a scalper. And so the plan was always going to be build me a new computer and then turn my old computer into a home server for us. Put the Plex server on it, file server, those sorts of things. And so I was like, well, my graphics card budget was $1,000. For $1,200, I can just buy this pre-built with the slightly worse graphics card in it, but like that one's still just as hard to find. So I can get that graphics card and an entire new gaming computer that can then be the
Nice.
server. And so I splurged and got that. Then when it got here, the power supply that was in it didn't have enough hookups for my kick-ass pile of parts. So I then had to buy a power supply. This was now on Saturday by the time it had all gotten here. And so it was super late in the week, and I didn't have time to play, and that's why I skipped it. But I was like, maybe I'll have time on Monday. So on late Saturday night, I finally get everything built, and I power on my computer that comes with Windows 10, and Windows 10 was not activated. And support for the graphics card company is only open during business hours, and this was late on Saturday. So I had to wait until Monday so that I could activate Windows. When you have unactivated Windows, you still can like download games and do stuff like that. The activation portion is for like downloading updates and stuff like that. So like, I still could use it, but it was like frustrating that it's like I couldn't get it done. So that had to wait till Monday. So I'm like, well, what I'll do is I'll just build my server over the weekend. And so I had bought a new 8 terabyte drive that I'd put in it, and I started moving everything over. And then so I started that slightly before finishing building the good computer. And so the good computer got built, and I'm like, okay, well, now that it's built, I can put Open Media Vault, the server software, on the thing. And so I did it, and it wouldn't read the hard drive that I had just put in it, because for some reason, when it was still on Windows and I had put in the 8 terabyte hard drive, it read it as an external drive, and being Windows, it marked it as exFAT. exFAT, it has a peculiarity where it just it isn't compatible with Linux style like permissions. And if you try and change them in Linux, it just ignores them. And even though it should have been wide open and no big deal, it was not wide open. It was not letting me write to it. So I suddenly had this dead drive, several dead drives that I couldn't do anything with on my server. So I had to put Peppermint OS Linux. It's a super tiny distro that runs off a flash drive. I put Peppermint on a flash drive, unhooked my server from like where I had put it as a server, and rigged it up to my work screen so that I could use Peppermint to move the files off of the 8 terabyte so I could format it for Linux, move it back, format the other drives for Linux. All this other garbage took forever to do. It took like 2 days of straight just moving files back and forth, because it's like 15 terabytes I have in the thing. Like, it's huge. And it took forever to do, and that was that was still happening Monday night, and it was a whole lot of garbage. But as of Wednesday, I had all of my Windows was activated, everything was installed. I had my I didn't even talk about how my Windows account and Xbox account are not synced, and I tried to get them synced, and they're like, we can't do that. And it took me forever for me to just get the straight answer that like we can't move Xbox accounts between Windows accounts. But then I logged in the next day, and it the Xbox app itself automatically does it. I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? Anyhow, so that was all garbage, whole lot of garbage. Finally on Thursday, I was able to hit the ground running and start going. So at this second right now, I have 4 episodes of the podcast to post. So by the time you hear this, you will have had your phone blown up by all of these episodes. But
so it's like that, huh? I understand everything now.
Yeah.
Doesn't get it at all.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very stressful week of trying to bend these things to my will. But now I can play Control with ray tracing, and it's real pretty.
Yeah.
So
nice.
That's the moral of the story. I also edited a podcast episode right before we started recording, and it rendered the whole thing in 1 minute and 12 seconds instead of the half an hour it usually takes. So
pretty fucking good.
Loving that for me. But yeah, let's talk about this game, and we will listen to. What's a fun number?
How many tracks? How many tracks are in it?
There's like 300. It's a big number.
Track 69.
I was gonna say that too. Yeah. God damn it!
So we'll listen to BGM track 69, and then we'll talk about the plot.
Nice.
Nice.
I like how we've bookended that.
Yep. So anyway,
that's professional.
When we last left our heroes, Ty and the others had just I don't even fucking know what we did. Oh, yeah, we fell down inside of a desert and had some underground adventures and stuff like that. And then Melody joined our party, and she's cool and hot. So, Chapter 7, Vision Cataclysm. The party heads east through the Great Desert toward Gassara. But before we get there, we find ourselves suddenly in a deep forest. What? Oh, this is the mysterious desert forest that appears sometimes. All the NPCs mentioned it. Fun fact, when I heard that there was a mysterious desert that appears sometimes in the forest, in the desert, forest appears in the desert, got that backwards, I thought that sounds like optional content to me, so I ran all around this desert looking for it, because it's a really big desert, and all they tell you is, let's go east. So, of course, I didn't just go east, I went north and south, and ran all around the desert, looking for, a little thingy on the world map I could click into. Eventually I gave up and just ran east. It turns out you go into the forest in a cutscene. Whatever. It is optional. You can explore or leave. The music is excellent. NPCs have told us that there are special items that can move the enchanted rocks that block the paths, and we have some already. I didn't mention this, but we've been picking up key items from every major boss. I noticed them a while back in my inventory. They're all called Spell Rock, like Spider Spell Rock or Ant Spell Rock or whatever. What's the word? Bandit Spell Rock. Turns out this is what they're for. A mysterious voice says that she hid the treasures that she collected during her life here, but was waiting for someone worthy to come claim them. We use our spell rocks to clear the way and explore and get some extremely dope loot. Did y'all do this little bit?
Yes.
Yes,
good. It's extremely dope.
If y'all hadn't, I was going to say go back there and do it, because really dope loot.
I had to use my brain meats for a second, and they're not working so great today.
Anyway, we head on out of the desert and into Gassara. Gassara's music is heart-meltingly beautiful. It's so good. But that beautiful, slow, pretty music is interrupted when some people burst onto the scene and some different music plays. It seems that a bear man is being chased by a hot whip lady, another main character. He's a thief, and she's Cuts the Rosenthorn. She whips his ass, and Melody says, "Oh, hi, Kuts, what's up?" Apparently, last time they were together, Melody disappeared, and everyone figured that she died. Oh, they're old friends. Or rather, arch nemesis. Kuts is the branch chief of Gassara, so it seems that, the two of them are both branch chiefs, so they have a friendly rivalry, or maybe they hate each other's guts. It's a combination. It's a land of contrasts.
Regardless, they're fucking.
I was about to say, the point is, sometimes lesbians have complex feelings for each other, okay?
Yes.
So she invites us back to the branch to share our story. She says that she thought Wataru would be the only traveler she ever met. Wild to meet two of them in her lifetime. Melody asks us to leave her and Kuts alone to chat. So we leave, and we explore Gassara. We learn through NPCs that to the southeast there's some chapel ruins sitting on top of an underground lake. Anyway, we head to a restaurant and there's a ruckus. This little guy dressed up like a fancy wizard is arguing with some workers. We break it up and learn the little guy's name is Ruppel, or, quote, Dr. Ruppel, as his degree should have been conferred any day now.
I hate this child.
I simultaneously...
I hate this tiny boy.
I mostly hate him. I also kind of love him. Also in combat, he's pretty interesting. Anyway, it turns out he's a Pankin. Pankin are super rare. One moment. Pankin are super rare, if you recall. They're one of the races on this continent that are apparently not very common. Turns out Pankin just means small person. It turns out, and they're all they're doing the thing a lot of fantasy does, where there's, maybe I'm misreading here, but you know how in a lot of fantasy stories there's always the fantasy race that's kind of like Jew coded, basically, to be you know what I mean? And sometimes that's done extremely racistly, and sometimes it's done not particularly racistly. And this time it's pretty much just like, hey, these guys are small and they're really clever, and maybe they're kind of sneaky, and it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. You know how it is. What were you saying, Sam?
I was going to say, I never used them in combat because I used Kuts, and then I replaced Kuts with, because we get a new move with that's really good that we'll talk about.
Anyway, this guy's pretty good. Anyway, so the point is, he's a Pankin, and Pankin's, he's working for the scientist back at Loudest Observatory, the guy that we couldn't get in to see. That place is optional, so y'all may or may not have been there, but, I did. Turns out that he is out traveling around investigating paranormal happenings across the world of vision, specifically the sharp increase in monster appearances. So the reason why these guys were having an argument was, Dr. Raskin said that Roppel wouldn't get credit for his assignment unless he helped people. He's not just out to learn, he's out to learn and to help other, do good works, basically. So Roppel decided to, quote, help these workers by telling them all about his research, which didn't help them so much as annoy the hell out of them. It turns out that that's what happens when you first show up. He's basically just rambling about, no, you don't understand. This is a big problem. And they're like, dude, I just work here. Sir, this is a Wendy's. So he says that what he found is that while monsters are on the rise everywhere, in Gasara, it's extremely bad. They're spiking, essentially. But he doesn't know why yet. He just knows it's going to be really bad for everyone if they don't stop it. So some shenanigans happens. I won't go into it. Roppel has some quirky ways of speaking. He does this thing where basically you'll ask him a question, and he'll respond with something that doesn't make any sense. And then you'll keep having your conversation, and a minute later, he'll say this. You'll realize that he was literally just 10 steps ahead of you in the conversation. So you'll 2 minutes later, you'll ask him a question, and then he'll be like, it's like I said earlier, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, wow, you're so smart. That's annoying, but I find him pretty cute in some other ways. Anyway, so we head back to the branch, and we learn that there's a horrible monster on the loose at the aforementioned underground lake. And Roppel and Kuts joined the party to go stop it. That's right, we get 2 new party members here.
Hell yeah.
At the underground lake, Kuts says, yeah, geez, the monsters have never been like this before. Weird. Because it's been 2 entire weeks, I don't exactly remember. Kuts just, fucking owns, right? And does, a bazillion damage?
Yeah, she's real good. She has a whip, and her basic bravura skill attacks 10 times.
That's right. That move rules.
Yeah, it's real good.
And if you have Melody and Kuts and obviously Tetsuya in your party, they have a super attack altogether called Dragon Fighter or some shit. And it gives all of you attack up first, and then you have a defense ignoring move, so you do 250 damage, and it's great, and I love it. And then I was sad that she didn't stay in the party, and she was just a guest the whole time. So we progress deeper and deeper, and come to a room full of weird statues. All the statues are spitting out a freaky gas. Ripple, as I have it written here, says it's a magical stimulant and is surely what's riling up and attracting so many monsters. And sure enough, holy moly, not 1, but 2 enormous giant squids. It turns out that the gas is water-soluble, so the water critters are mega affected, which is why this squid turned into a boss squid. We fight the squids. It wasn't a particularly tough battle. I think they actually did.
No, it was pretty easy.
I don't think they killed me so much as I believe early on I realized my party was extremely bad for this battle. So I just let them kill me and then tried again with a different party and then kick their asses. Afterward, our whole party, it turns out our whole party has gotten got by the gas, and everyone's all enraged and crazy. All of our normal party characters are just acting all a little crazy. But luckily, the other Highlanders show up and destroy the statues, and we all go back to normal. Roppel says only an extremely knowledgeable wizard could have set something like this up. It's very advanced. He confronts Ty. He says, bruh, I know you're a traveler, which means you're from, quote, the real world. Roppel says he's going to join us so that he can study Ty. Yuno and Sagrith don't like this idea because Roppel is fucking annoying. But Melody is like, y'all chill out. The dude's good at magic. So we head back to town. Sadly, the extremely hot Kutz does not join the party. At Roppel's suggestion, we head for the mining town of Palta in Erikita. The reason we go to Palta is because Palta is a mining town. So Roppel's literally like, you're looking for a gym, right? Why don't we go to the gym town? No one comments on the fact that so far the gyms have not been real objects so much as just weird things that appear sometimes. So it wouldn't really matter if we head to a mining town or not, but we do anyway. We're like, sure, sounds good.
Yeah, it is at this point that the plot completely shifts gears, and now the gyms are very real physical objects that have real attachment to real things.
Yeah, kind of weird. Before it literally was like, it was like, it's kind of like how in Zelda the Triforce is both an actual triangle, but also it just like is a tattoo that shows up on your hand. And it's like, which is it? Yeah, it's just kind of both.
Is it tattoo or
it's
Dorito?
A physical, it's a metaphysical construct that sometimes assumes physical form. That's kind of how I was reading the whole gym thing, but now it's like, nah, dude, the gyms is rocks. There was something else I was gonna say here. What was it? Sorry, I just want to look real quick. I didn't want to miss it. Heading back to town, Melody is saying, oh, right. I just wanted to mention, so this game has an element system. It has 4 elements, and they interact the way that you'd think in games. The thing is, up until now, it hasn't really mattered a whole lot, because our characters tend to not have elemental spells. And when they do, it tends to be more specific. Like, you'll get a spell that it's like, oh, this spell's strong against bugs. Oh, this spell's strong against demons, which is really neat, by the way, although I do wish the game was more clear on what does and doesn't count as a bug or a demon.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to use trial and error, but when you find out that it does work, oh boy, it does fucking damage.
It works so good.
It does have an element system, but so far it's only really mattered in the sense that, remember at one point we got to sort of just pick what element we wanted to be, and then we just are that element all the time, which is pretty cool. Also, kind of like Chrono Cross, each character tends to sometimes have certain elements that they kind of do sometimes. What makes Roppel neat is that Roppel is a mage and literally just has fire spell, water spell. So it's not like, oh, this spell does damage against bugs. Like, no, this is a fire spell, which is cool. And after that point, so I actually started using Roppel regularly here, because every battle I would use all my spells and try to figure out which enemies are weak to what. And once I figured it out, then the whole dungeon becomes a lot easier, because Roppel seriously does incredible damage, especially if they're weak. Like, Roppel is very strong. So
he's a bit of a glass cannon.
He's certainly a bit of a glass cannon. With him I often would take him out for bosses, but he would generally stay in my party during... I mean, I was experimenting a lot, but point is, he's pretty cool. Yeah. And it's neat that the game's element system, like, matters now. Whereas before it was very ad hoc, and now it's a thing. And also, because of what's it called? Because of what's the term you always use, Sam? For some reason I've blanked out.
Bullpen experience.
I kept thinking dugout, like baseball. I guess it's the same thing. Because of dugout XP, makes sense. They're still on the team. They're just in the dugout. Because of dugout XP, he at this point, by the time you get to the next dungeon, he's probably starting to learn his like Fira level spells, his level 2 spells, and again they're fucking great. So point is, we head for Palta. So this next chapter has a weird structure, and we learn why immediately. Up until now, every single chapter has been, you go to a place, you find out there's a problem, you go and do one dungeon, and then you fix the problem. Or sometimes you don't even get to the place because you find out there's a problem, and that's the whole chapter. Like, last time we tried to cross a border, and we had to go on a whole adventure before we could cross the border. But that was the whole chapter, right? But this time it's different. We arrive at the border of Nacht and Erikita, but the guards won't let us pass. But not because they're arresting us, it's because there's a big rock slide blocking the path. So we gotta go through an alternate route through a dangerous tunnel. So this chapter just starts off with us having to go through a tough dungeon, and no, this isn't the whole chapter. This is just a dungeon we gotta go through. It's really hard. It is by far the hardest dungeon in the game so far. At least for me it was. Was it this hard for y'all?
Yeah.
I remember Eli complaining about it.
Wait, which one?
The underground tunnel thingy?
Yeah.
Oh, I hated the tunnels. I don't remember the bosses being
There wasn't a
bad.
boss of this one.
Oh, shit. Well, yeah, fuck the tunnels.
This is a really hard boss.
Sorry, I'm so, like...
Yeah, this is a really hard dungeon. It's just, I didn't even fully explore it. I was like, I gotta get through here.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I don't actually think I game overed at any point, but I think I had 3 different times when there was one person left in the party and I was hitting the runaway button and I managed to run away. Like
Oof. I got a game over.
Literally 3 times. I was like 1 attack away from getting a game over, which is crazy. Sam, you sound like you're about to say something. What's up?
So I also got a game over, but I had been forgetting that you can't save on the world map. And every time I come to the world map, I would go to save. Like, oh yeah, I have to save when I get to the place.
Oh.
And I would do it. ADD would kick in and be like, hey, look, new awesome place to explore. Go and do all the things. And I would not be saving. And so I show up in the caverns right there and get pwned. And my save file was in chapter 7
Rip.
in the desert.
I had a similar experience where, like, I went through a whole bunch of cutscenes and then I went into the dungeon. Yeah. Like, I had saved right before the cutscenes, but then I had all those cutscenes to go through. Like, there was one where it was an optional cutscene. Yuno talked to, it was the guy in the branch.
That one where she gets her brave soul technique or whatever?
Yeah, she does.
It's one of my memorable moments. It's a great scene.
Cool. Yeah. So I had to do that one all over again. I mean, thankfully I had seen them, so I could just sit there and button mash, but I was so fucking frustrated.
Yeah. So I had lost 2-3 hours of work, and I had work today. So I was like, what the fuck will I do? I went and got both macro fire and CW cheat for my Vita, so that I could put turbo on, so I could just hold down the button to skip cutscenes, because you can't actually skip cutscenes. And then because I love playing this game and interacting with the system, so I did not want to do the normal style Game Shark codes for RPGs, where it's just like be level 99, have max stats, because then the game's not fun anymore. So I wanted one that was just like keep me healed, and so that I don't have to worry about dying for the rest of the time. I can just turn on turbo, attack every turn, set it down while I'm working, and get back to where I was or whatever. And so I've found infinite HP and infinite BP. So every boss is really easy when you can just do Dragon Warriors or whatever every turn, 3 times a turn.
Can you tell me at some point how to add those?
Absolutely. It's trivial. So
fantastic.
Pretty simple. But yeah, I put those on and things were going good. And then I pressed the wrong button while I was configuring it and crashed my Vita, so that I then had to watch the cutscenes again.
Oh my God.
And it was real frustrating.
Cursed by your own hubris.
Yes, but I managed to get through, and my save file is intact. The thing that I accidentally pressed is I accidentally gave myself 99 lightning shards. So if I ever find a diagram that makes me a lightning ring, I will make 99. But,
you're gonna have so many lightning rings.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, my save file will be fine. I just turn the codes off next time I play, and I'll be appropriately leveled and where I am and all of that jazz.
That's great.
So,
but yeah, what I found out of this dungeon is, like the game makes you think now. It's crazy.
It's the difficulty curve is very odd.
Yeah, and one way that makes you think is the game has that whole crazed thing where the enemies get crazed. And
I hate that. I hate it so much.
Up until now, crazed has mostly been something you want to happen because 2 things. Sometimes you want someone to get crazed for like a side quest or because they drop a sweet item, but also, or like the sweet item for crafting. But also because, frankly, when enemies get crazed, they're not really that much harder, and you get a lot more XP. So, like, it's good. If an enemy gets crazed, it's like now you get a more difficult battle that isn't really that difficult, and you get a lot more XP, so it's all good. But at this point, the game's hard enough that it's actually something that can be very dangerous. So
yes, and that's what killed me.
Both, I think 2 of the 3 times I almost got owned were because I got 2 enemies crazed in the same battle.
Yeah,
and
oh my god,
that's what killed me.
You pretty much have to pay attention to what gets enemies crazed, and then don't do that.
I never know.
Usually it's something like you attack them. Generally, there are more complicated things, but most of them is just you attack them. So, like with a lot of battles, it's like, oh, I'm going to split up my attacks. You know, like this character will attack one enemy and kill it in 1 hit, but these characters will both team up on this enemy to kill that in 1 hit. You know, because that way you're being like maximally efficient in your divvying up of your damage. But if both of those enemies are capable of being crazed, then you just crazed both enemies, and then they kick your ass. So you have to be like, okay, I'm not even fucking touching that guy until the other one's dead, right? Yeah, so it becomes a whole ass thing. And yeah, it's just very, very difficult. Whatever. There is there is an interesting cutscene halfway through. We get to a scary door. It's emitting a weird sound, and it's covered in runes. Melody intuits that the door is meant to keep someone out, or more likely, to keep something in. Roppel says, yeah, it's a magical barrier, which we must break this barrier for the sake of knowledge. Then Sogrith drags Roppel away, kicking and screaming, and is like, bruh, it's a magic door sealing something terrible inside. Let's just let sleeping dogs die. Sleeping dogs lie. Excuse me. So basically, I'm guessing that's an optional super hard boss that you can run right past, which is what I did. And then I wrote, Christ, this dungeon is hard. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what's going on with that door. Like I said, I'm guessing it's an optional boss. I didn't click on the door because I'd already was almost dead from the dungeon. I didn't want to get more dead. I'm guessing we'll go back and, one of us maybe go back and check it out later. So, we get through the dungeon, and we get to the crag town of Palta. As usual, when we get to Palta, some sad music is playing. The exterior seems empty, and the NPCs in the inn all just say ... Then we find out that everyone else in town just says ... We head to the branch. Melody talks to the captain Tet, who also says ... But then Melody mentions something I hadn't noticed, which is that aside from Tet, there are no men in the entire town. But then a mole man runs up and he can talk. He's so glad to see us. His name is Chaka. He's the chief of the Coal Miners Association. He says he has no idea what happened. He was out of town for a week, and when he came back, it was like this. Once again, Roppel suspects a magician. I'm starting to wonder, okay, spoiler alert, he's right. It is a magician. But, every time something crazy happens, Roppel's like, only a super smart magician could have done this. I'm like, are you just saying that because you're a super smart magician? Anyway.
He just wants to be needed in the
he's
party.
He's like, oh, something this cool. Oh, this bad guy's so strong, he's obviously a magician.
Yeah, he looks at Tatsuya, Sogrith, and and he's like, oh, so we got a tank, a DPS, and a healer. So what the fuck do they need me for? I know. I'll just pretend like everything's magic so that I'm needed for plot reasons because I'm not needed in battle.
So anyway, he says, Roppel says that we have no reason to help these people because our mission is to get gemstones, not to save random towns in distress. We call him an idiot. Melody says, buddy, don't you remember? You don't get credit for your class if you don't help people. Roppel is like, yeah, man, that's totally logical. What the hell, Professor? Melody's like, that's because Dr. Whatever, she doesn't say Dr. Whatever, I just forgot his name. Dr. Whatever knows that you have a small heart, and small hearts aren't capable of true learning. Melody gives Roppel a lesson in feelings, and eventually Roppel says he'll help us. So we're gonna help, we're gonna help this town. But once again, this game shows its slight, breaking out of its mold structurally a little bit. I wrote that we need a special item from the nearby forest. In my defense, Tear Heaven definitely sounds like the name of a forest. But it turns out the thing we gotta do isn't go to the dungeon and kill a boss and come back. It's go to another town.
I kept reading it in my head as Tear Shaven and just reading both half of it.
Nope.
Was wrong. It's like if you don't use a straight razor and you use clippers, then every time you shave your beard, it's tear shaven.
I hate that. So anyway, yeah, it turns out that Tears Heaven or Tear Haven or whatever is not a forest at all, but rather it's you might even say it's not just three it's not just three men in a fishing boat, but rather it's a whole damn town. So I did a little bit of exploring and learned a little bit about this town. Turns out this town manufactures tears and liquid sorrow, which sounds like a fun place to be. On the way there's a sign that's like, if you want to be happy, don't come to this town. But also, apparently, in this town,
it's the opposite of the happy
exactly.
village.
But also, apparently, in this town, if you make someone sad, you get exiled. So, I don't know, whatever. Also, we find out that
it's if you can talk to a couple people, and it's kind of cool, except the person that did this in the real world is a horrible person. I'm talking about, of course, Mother Teresa, but it's like it's a place where like sad people go to live out their sadness and be sick and hurtful and all of these things, so that they can like get it out of their system and be sad. You don't want to add extra sadness onto people, and that's why you get kicked out. But it's not necessarily a place to go and cheer yourself up.
Weird.
It's a place to go and wallow.
Disease, but I guess I didn't.
I need an entire village that just lets me go ugly cry for a while.
It's normal here. Anyway, in case things weren't on theme enough, nearby is also a swamp called the Swamp of Grief. People are generally forbidden to go there, but if they gotta go, they have to be sure not to smile while they're there. Now, here I was thinking, that's probably going to be some interesting little narrative or mechanical thing. Probably narrative. Also, you're noticing this has to do with Roppel, because Roppel's whole arc is that he doesn't have feelings or understand them. So now you have this whole arc where it's all about feelings. Oh, maybe Roppel's going to have some growing and learning. Not really. Whatever. So we hit up the branch.
He does, but it's not related to any of the lush
kind of
setting
unrelated.
around him.
Anyway, we hit up the branch. Mayor Mag is talking with Captain Dan. Apparently, they can't make any more tears or liquid lament. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to say, we're here to get liquid lament. We need that to help the town. So they can't make any more, though. Turned out they make it by filtering rain into ultra-pure water. There's a special, rain. But lately, no amount of filtering will purify the rain. They think it might have something to do with the mysterious shadowy figure that they've been seeing around the Swamp of Grief. But they can't catch up with him. So, obviously, we go to the Swamp of Grief. I wrote, holy cow, the Swamp of Grief is the best graphics and music yet. It's not quite as god-awful tough as the previous dungeon as well. It's not easy. The game has just stopped being easy at this point. But yeah, graphics and music are absolutely gorgeous. You got to stay on your toes. This dungeon kind of spirals around, and the goal's in the center. It's kind of a neat little layout. I think it's a little non-linear. Either it's non-linear, or every time I took an intersection, I happened to go the right way, and therefore didn't realize the other directions were all dead ends. I'm not really sure. So when we get there, Roppel says, when we get to the center, Roppel is like, I sense a huge surge in magic. Here's some mumbling, like someone chanting a spell. And hey, look, it's some mysterious dude and swirly magic smoke. Tells them to freeze or she'll shoot, and says he's under arrest for rain pollution. But oh no, he's fast. He grabs and says he warned us not to interfere, which is interesting. Melody realizes the voice sounds just like Ray. To remind y'all, Ray is the bad guy. Roppel says that it's actually Ray's familiar. He's gonna snap Yuno's neck, but then someone from off-screen shoots him, and he dashes away. It's Leinart. He says,
Leonard.
He says, don't worry about why I'm here. Let's just kick this fucker's ass. And wow,
Leinart,
even
Skynart.
more great boss battle music. Yowza. And then I said, oh shit, Leinart joins our party, and we kick its ass. So yes, Leinart, even though we met him a while ago, is now in our party, and he's great. So afterward, Sogrith introduces Sir Leinart to Yuno since they actually hadn't met before, which is funny. I hadn't realized that. But then Leonard says he's no longer a knight. He says he quit for, quote, personal reasons, but Sogrith intuits it has something to do with Liquid Lament. At any rate, now that the mage smoke is gone and everything's back to normal, let's go back to Tierhaven. Now that everyone knows what a danger ray is, Mayor Mag sends out a warrant to all branches to catch the bastard. Then night passes, and in the morning the town is back in business, and they made buckets full of Liquid Lament. They're still going to charge us for it, and they're charging us a shit ton because we need enough for an entire town. Roppel explains it would be better business for him to give it to us as a show of charity to drum up business. He gives them this lengthy lesson in economics that doesn't actually make any sense. Everyone is appreciative of Roppel, and he learns that it feels nice to help people. Kind of. A little bit. Not totally, but he's getting there. So, we're done, right? No. So, Leinart pieces out. But also, it turns out he's rented a house in town. So we follow him and eavesdrop a little bit, which is a normal thing to do when you're a good person. So we, the player, are seeing inside of his house, but it is also the case that outside of his house, the party is hearing all of this. So, oh snap, as we may have expected, there's some pretty lady on a white bed. And everyone knows anytime there's a pretty lady laying on a white bed, she's dying.
She's gonna die.
Yeah.
Although in this case, though she is deeply sick, she might not actually be dying. We'll find out. She says that she feels gloomy, and Leinart does too, so the town of Sorrow is the best place for them right now. He tells her, Sasha, not to worry. Oh, we then learn that she's got Shamnesia. She seems to be quite sick. He says, quote, if only you knew what your husband was really like. Then he clarifies that the husband is him. This is his wife. He took her to this town to give her the medicine to restore her memories, but he feels like a terrible person because if he heals her, the, quote, bad memories will come back. I realize I wrote that a little bit illogically. Basically, something really bad happened with him and his wife, and she lost her memories, but the problem is that giving him... So she doesn't remember who he is. So getting his real wife back and her knowing who he is and loving him again also means that she'll remember whatever terrible thing it was that happened to begin with. Then we learned that because of his experiences with Ty and the others, he realizes that he's being selfish. He's not going to heal her memories. He's going to love her, and if her heart heals and her memories come back on her own, then fine. But even if she forgets him every day, he'll stay with her. It's a weirdly complex set of emotions there. Outside, everyone's listening in, and everyone's just fucking bawling because of how sad this story is. But we're crying so loudly that Leinart hears, so he comes out and sees everyone crying. Sogrith especially feels that he's found a kindred spirit because he also has wife problems, aka a dead one. Leinart tells us that her memory loss is his own fault. He says he was too focused on his knightly duties, and he left her all alone all the time. One day, she was attacked in the street, leaving her physically and mentally scarred. He says the goddess erased him from her memories on purpose for her own good because she's too good for him. He fears, even though the whole thing was that he wasn't giving her enough attention and was not with her ever, he says that he's going to leave and come with us and join our party. But it actually makes sense. He's worried that his continued presence will just make her continue to suffer. So he's going to give her space. He's not bailing. He's just giving her some space. And the mayor promised to take care of her. Melody knowingly says that sometimes to love someone, you have to be a stranger to them. We return to the other... I said in my notes, we return to the other town, the one that has the problem. we give Pet the medicine, and he can talk again. So then he tells us about this town's problem. He says he can't say how long ago it was, but a boy of 17 or 18 in a black robe came to town. Sounds like our boy. He remembers greeting him, but after that, it's all just blank. They talk for a bit, but then Chaka the miner bursts into the room again. He says the miners in the mine are all dead. He says it's, quote, the curse of the fireworm. We head north to the mine. That's right, another dungeon. We're not done. There's a lot of lore here that I kind of skipped over about why the mine exists and what happened with it. It's kind of interesting, but I didn't write it down. Sorry. Maybe, if it ends up being important later, we can always do a recap. Whatever. So the point is, they think that the fireworm, aka dragon, in the mine is like being bad and like enslaving all the miners or something like that. They're not really sure. So deep in the mine, we're going through it. It's another dungeon. But the terrain seems to change. It goes from like normal mine to like different looking mine. The rock changes into a much harder, nigh impenetrable form. Roppel's like, no miner would willingly dig through this kind of rock. And Melody says, well, they clearly did. They must have been forced to. So now we realize the whole thing where everyone was all depressed and stuff, they did that. They basically like hypnotized everyone and put everyone in the whole town into like a stupor. That way nobody would notice when they enslaved the miners and like mind controlled them and forced them to dig through this super hard rock for some special purpose. Then when they were done, they killed all the miners. Except for this one guy who's still alive. There's a really sad scene where he needs a drink of water, but they can't figure out how to give him water because his body temperature is so low that giving him water would just cool him down even more and instantly kill him. But then Roppel is like, I'll use fire to try and heat him up. And they're like, no, he's so burned and injured that would also kill him. And while they're trying to figure out how to help this guy, he dies. It's a really sad scene. So and it makes Roppel really sad because he just learned about how helping people is good actually, and then he can't. Anyway, he gets real mad, and we swear to get Ray's ass. So then we get to a voiced cutscene. We go through the door, and here's an enormous fucking fireworm. And everyone's like, so it's true. You are behind all this. You're the one who did the bad thing and hypnotized everyone. But the dragon says, fly, little ones, and then jumps in front of us, defending us from Ray, who is on the other side of him. In other words, the dragon is good, actually, and is trying to stop Ray, who's the real bad guy. So he says, I'll hold him off. Then we hear Ray's first voice line of dialogue. He has a really stupid voice. He's Yuri Lowenthal. Like this. Is he really? It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently the theme for this year of the podcast is playing Yuri Lowenthal games. He's just been fucking everywhere.
Yeah, he sounds fucking stupid. He doesn't sound like a villain at all. So anyway, Ray casts a huge spell at us, but the dragon jumps in front to save us. He's deeply wounded, and then Ray kills him and gets the 4th gemstone. Quote,
which is the physical object, the gemstone inside of the dragon's eye, and not
a thing that magically appears whenever you complete a quest. Yeah. So then he says about the men he killed, he says, they're animals, ... and illusions. He then skedaddles, but we do have a boss battle against another one of his familiars. We beat it. I didn't have too much trouble with this battle. Did y'all?
I still had God mode on, so I had zero trouble with it.
I didn't have any trouble. Like I think I looked at how to do it, but I don't recall having any issues.
I remember so much about the random encounters in this week, but almost nothing about the bosses because I guess they just weren't anything in particular. So we have a boss battle against Radius Familiar. After the battle, we apologize to the dying fireworm. Okay, so it turns out the fireworm didn't actually die. You're gonna think that he dies like 5 times today. But then it turns out he's not dead yet. He just is about to die. So we apologize to him for doubting him. He says his name is Volg. He says he's going to use the last of his strength to fly us to Dragon Island, and that when he finally does die, his body will be enslaved to the Dark Wizard. That sucks. So we climb on his back and we fly through the clouds to the place that many NPCs have been foreshadowing, Dragon Island. When we reach our destination, sure enough, Volg collapses, dead. Asterisk. Another dragon named Arga appears, and another named Kazai. Roppel says, oh my god, it's 2 of the 7, quote, pillars of legend. the leaders of the 7 dragon tribes. 2 more appear. Turns out this really is the Island of Dragons, because we are tripping dragons. The game went from 0 dragons to 7 dragons very quickly. 2 more appear. They're surprised that Volg wasn't already dead. They thought he died 800 years ago in the capital G, capital W Great War. Vine, Volg's little brother, appears. Volg says his time is short. They must call together the Council of Fang and Wing. Okay, now he's dead. Then the Worm King shows up and we tell him everything. It turns out that the dragons are the mortal enemies of the Demonkin, which are sort of a thing that we weren't super sure about existing until just now, but now we are. So also, the power of the gemstone has been passed down through Volg's family in their eyes for generations. They're really mad that a punk-ass wizard stole it. They all start making plans to mobilize and scout out the continent to prepare to fight Ray and the demons. Meanwhile, Vine asks if he can give us his gemstone, because again, one of his eyes is a gemstone. He does, and a gem grants us the power of the fireworms, protectors of vision. Holy shit, our sword is now a dragon sword. Now, when I say our sword is a dragon sword, you might think you know what that means. There's been lots of dragon swords out there, like the sword has the power of a dragon, or the sword has a dragon engraved into its hilt. No. The blade of the sword is a dragon's neck, and it's like biological, and it's like wriggling around while we're holding it, and the hilt is like wings of a dragon. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. It's a little unsettling while simultaneously being
we're like holding
pretty fucking
this
badass.
floppy, like fleshy, scaly lizard thing in our hand and just thwapping things with it. So anyway, yeah, there's like this whole separate thing going on where it's like we're on our quest to get the gemstones and save our sister, but also it's like, oh, this wizard's trying to take over the world, but that's not actually your business. We're the dragons, we're the protectors. We're going to prepare for this big war with demons. And we're like, all right. We didn't realize something very important. Not only can we now go back to the real world with our 4th gemstone, but so can Ray, which means Mimi's life is in danger. Because if you recall, last time we were in the hospital room with Mimi, Ray said, if you try and get in my way, I'll murder everyone who you love. So, that sucks. So luckily there's a star sigil behind the Worm King's throne, so we fucking book it. We get there, and oh my god, Ray is already right there in front of Mimi's hospital bed. He wants to kill her. He's like about to kill her. And he says he's, quote, so close to freeing myself from these awful memories. But he's hesitating. He tries to like psych himself up, like, come on, you can do it. You can be the villain. You can kill the girl. But then we appear. And now, as Sam predicted, we have in an extremely cool, amazing, dramatic scene, we have a boss battle right there in the hotel room, right in front of her. Like, you can see the windows and the sunlight streaming in, and her laying in the hospital bed right there, like, in the battle arena. It's so fucking cool. Luckily, he only casts fire spells, and if you recall, I'm pretty sure this is a you can't lose battle anyway, but for me, it was even more of a you can't lose battle because he only casts fire spells, and I literally absorb fire. Every single turn, I literally just get absorbed to full health, and then I whoop his ass. I don't know what it's like if you're not fire elemented. I'm guessing it's just a battle that you go back and forth for a few turns. What was it like for y'all?
Wow, what was it, Eli? Because you're purple, right, Eli?
Yes.
So, what was the fight with him like? It was just, you can't lose?
Yeah.
Nice.
Much.
Okay.
But presumably he actually was doing at least some amount of damage to you.
Also, your dragon is red, right? Not purple?
Correct.
Okay. I was wondering, because it happened to line up with the color I picked. I was like, oh, is it fireworms for us? But maybe it was like thunderworm for Eli, but...
No.
But no.
That would have been rad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after a few turns, the battle is cut short because the bells ring, and when the bells ring, we get warped back. So both of us get warped back to Vision, and the battle is unresolved. But we kind of succeeded in our goal. I mean, we stopped Mimi from dying, so yay. the dragons tell us that we're going to need to fight with all of our might and trust our friends and be brave and shit. You know, like anime, like believe in yourself type speech. They tell us that if we want to take down Rey, we should go back to Lourdes and talk with the doctor there. They say that the Starseers will help us. And then we get our airship. It turns out that Volg's little brother Vine, the one who gave us his gemstone, is like, you can now fly on me on the world map. And not only can you fly on the world map with him, but you can also summon him in battle. I did play for a little bit after this looking for side quests. I forgot to make use of that mechanic, so I don't know how it works. Did either of y'all try it?
I know that it's under your bravura skills, because it said so in like a little tutorial, but I have not used it.
Cool. Yeah. I immediately forgot that it was a thing. But yeah, now you can fly around, you can explore, you can find new areas, you can find you can basically super easily look for secret areas you haven't been to before, such as like a shed in the woods, or like, I don't know, any of the Goldfinch Forest without having to deal with world map battles, which is really good. I'm glad that I ignored Goldfinches until now, because I kind of do want to engage with it, and now it's super easy. You just fly to the Goldfinch Forest, land, and have at it. Same thing with all of the side quests. So, sorry I suggested doing side quests earlier, because they are kind of a pain. If you have been ignoring the side quests until now, now's a great time to do them. Because now it's a lot less of a pain in the ass, because not only do you have flying for the world map, but also if you go all the way to the bottom of a dungeon to do a side quest, you can then warp out of the dungeon. So it's good all around. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of chapter 8. So we have to, our new goal is, the final act is approaching. We're gonna go to the big tower. We're going to find out how to save the day or whatever, and we can now fly around and do side quests, and it's dope. So yeah, let's listen to track number, there's probably not 420 tracks, so we can't listen to track 420. No. Track number, what's another cool number? 30, I don't know, let's just do fucking 32. It's a nice number. We all love the number 32. Okay, 2 to the 5th power.
Oh yeah.
Track number 32, and then we will do some min mums.
So I only have a couple min moms, so I want to go first. I'm sure that you all will have other ones. So the first one is you get a Unity skill with roughly at level 30-ish if you've been using her a lot, and it's called what's it fucking called? I put it in chat a second ago.
Step off or
quit staring.
Yeah,
it's quit staring. And so will like bat her eyes at the enemies and they'll be distracted, and then Tatsuya will whoop their ass. But it has a chance to charm the enemy if the enemy survives, but it probably won't, because Tetsuya's attack ignores defense. So if you get a crazed enemy, you can ignore its jacked up defense and take it out.
That's great. Just
as fast as its smaller brethren, and it's awesome, and I love it. And I had been putting on turbo and in god mode and just like going through the battles, just attack, because it was no big deal. But I was like, no, it's way faster if I actually manually fight these battles and use quit staring every turn. And it was so good, and I loved it. Another related one is the scene we alluded to, the optional scene where you can get her Brave Soul special move, which makes her have 2 attacks every turn, which is awesome.
Yeah.
but she goes in and she talks to the Highlander there and is like, why do I suck and Cuts and Melody don't? They are super awesome. I'm not worth anything. And he's like, what, you mean how Melody's good with two swords? Her own martial art that she developed over 15 years of training, or how Cuts is really good with a whip because she's been working on a whip for forever. She's just been putting in the work and focusing on her strengths. What are your strengths? What can you focus on? And it's this real sweet little scene where Yuno realizes that she's actually worth something with the bow and gets a special move from it. And I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And then my final one is, did you guys find the Mimic in the Swamp of Grief?
Yes, I did.
It is the coolest Mimic design I've ever seen in a JRPG.
It was so fucking cool. Also, not as hard as most Mimics.
I feel like I ran into it, but I don't remember what it looked like.
Yeah, it's like splitting open, but like sideways. And it's kind of a mouth, but not like in a normal mouth. It kind of just like is an exploding chest with a long ass tongue and like legs that look like they're made out of Legos. And it's this weird, bizarre creature that's kind of treasure chest.
Normally the whole idea is like, oh, the treasure chest opens. Like it opened like a normal chest and that's its mouth. But this is like, nope, that's not what it is at all. I thought I had a screenshot of it, but I guess I did not. Yeah, it was dope as hell. And also, again, usually when you run into a treasure chest, it's like, oh fuck, a Mimic is being like, oh, this is like a mini boss, like it's like a really tough like boss quality enemy. And I was pretty stressed out because again, like the game's kind of tough now. I didn't feel like dying, but it actually wasn't that bad. Like it hit hard, but I was a lot less close to dying than I was during some other random battles.
Yeah, but that's all that I've got. What about you guys?
So I wrote some stuff down. Oh, okay. So the guy that you talked to do the optional cutscene with Yuno, you talked to him at one point, and he goes, when Coots was training, she hit me as much as her targets. Ouch, that hurt. Purr.
Yeah. So weird.
Woo! That boy is a bottom. Let's see. So, of course, naturally, I've been playing Buttia as a sassy jerk. So Roppel asks a question where you can say, no, that's wrong, or yeah, that's right, Roppel. And I went with that's right. Not to please Roppel, but to piss off Yuno.
Oh, that's valid.
And it did. There's also, when they're in the observatory, I don't remember exactly what was happening because it was so long ago and my brain can only hold so much information, but it's in the observatory and he says it's necessary for him to express his grief by screaming "Agh!" at the top of his lungs. I just love that line.
It's a side quest on the way to the mine, I think. There's a dude who's super, super hungry.
Yeah, I did that one.
I think.
Yeah, that's right. I wrote that the...
Oh, no, it's not the one that's hungry. That's the Birdman that's hungry later. His telescope is broken, and you have to fix it for him.
Yeah. The dragon music is really epic and amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. The Worm King is a gay pride dragon. Don't at me.
He is.
100%. I just wrote down, dude just fucking ripped his eye out for me. And, boy, I think that new sword looks real dumb.
It's so dumb. And, it's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but also, like, badass at the same time. It's like... It's
dumbass.
It's dumbass. It's half dumb and half badass.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing I wanted to mention was, so I know I said I hate the craze system earlier, and I stand by that. It is like the one major flaw that I've seen with the game is just how fucking hard craze gets. I really like that they have a crafting system, and I like that it's really, really simple and intuitive.
Big agree.
Like, it's super easy to figure out what you need, and you can kind of determine like where to get what parts, just if you pay enough attention. But like most of the time, like I haven't really needed to pay attention to that. I haven't really needed to care because like the accessories that I've been able to make just from having, you know, killed a bunch of shit have been serving me really well. So, yeah, that's
and for a while in the game, the accessories weren't like that good. It was like, oh, raise your agility by 1 fucking point. But now they're starting to get pretty good. Like instead of being like slight protection against paralysis, it's like significant protection against paralysis. And guess what? Paralysis really sucks in this game. So like that's a good thing to equip,
it's awful.
Or like, oh, this raises your attack by like a pretty decent amount, or whatever. Yeah, it's cool. All of the game's mechanics, like as the numbers sort of crank themselves up, as enemies get harder, as the accessories get better, just sort of everything sort of slowly is dialing up the tension, and it's getting much, much, much more interesting mechanically. Also, I would recommend, even if you like the party you have, rotate your party and try and get every combination, because that's how you unlock the dual techs, right? It's like, oh, the only way to unlock the dual tech between like Roppel and Sogrith is to have them both in your party for a bit. So I've started doing that on purpose just to try to unlock all of them. And man, there's a lot of really interesting ones out there. Because if you just look at their spell list and think like, okay, how does that factor in strategically? Most of the characters seem pretty boring. So it's like you don't really realize what the tactical options available to you are until you've unlocked the dual techs, right?
Yeah, the Unity skills are really, like, that's one of my favorite things to play with.
Yeah, they're real dope. Anyway, if you have my moms, first of all, Lainart's little apartment that he rented is like the tiniest house ever. Did y'all notice that?
Yeah, it's like literally inside of an archway. Like, yeah. It's it's about a foot.
The game doesn't acknowledge it, but like the way that the town's geometry is, it's like, first of all, it's triangle shaped, and it's like the size of a fucking bathroom, basically, which is funny to me. In addition to that, Roppel always has this thing where he'll be like, I'm mad and or angry or something like that. Like he'll use multiple words, and it's sometimes it's cute and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's annoying and dumb. But after you whenever you're overhearing Lainart's sad sob story, Roppel is like crying, and he's like, "Why am I crying?" And they're like, "Why wouldn't you be crying?" And he goes, "But his story is so pathetic and or slightly cliche." I was like, "Fucking get his ass."
Going right.
There's an enemy in this game called the Dark Seductress. She's what you'd expect. She's really hot. Roppel actually has a super badass line when we have to fight the second Ray doppelganger thingy. Roppel goes, "We're the ones who will walk away from this alive, not you." And I'm like, that's a weirdly cool line coming from a dork like you. Yeah. Also, the whole time, Ray is like, "I'm gonna get my wish," and Melody says, "Let's show that brat that any wish that leaves corpses in its wake isn't worth granting," which is a really nice little line. Also, this is extra stuff mostly, but once I got the flying power, I decided to fly around, obviously. And one place I went to was, if you recall, all the NPCs, a number of NPCs have told us about some weird, like, special shrine on the top of a goddamn mountain, and you can only get up there if you fly on the back of a fireworm. Well, guess what, buddy? I went up there and landed, and if you recall, it's like a shrine where the weapons of travelers who failed their missions are kept, in addition to miniatures of the places they visited. So you go there, and it's exactly that. I'll spoil it. nothing happens here. There's no scenes or triggered events or NPCs. I'm sure something will probably happen later, but nothing so far. But you can walk around it, and it is very cool and uncanny. I would recommend going up there if you haven't yet. I kind of like that you get to go up there before anything happened, because you get to just be up there, and it's, like, weird. Yeah, like, there's a big pile of weapons in the center, and you're literally just running around, and there's just it's like you're Godzilla, and there's just this tiny little city, and it's all, like, pale stone, like pale light blues and light a couple of sort of light purples. It all looks like it's definitely made out of, like, literal, like various stone of some kind on top of a fucking mountain, and it's just weird. It's cool. Reminded me of Nier Automata. I'm interested to see what happens there eventually, but for now, it's just a cool little extra little place you can go to. In addition, fun fact, the enemies have dual techs now. Did y'all notice that?
Yeah.
It only happened to me once, or maybe it happened more times, but I only noticed once. There's a part where if you're fighting a bird enemy and a rabbit enemy, they do a dual tech where the bird grabs the rabbit and carries it over to you and then, like, drops it on you. I thought that that was neat. Also, finally, when you're in the swamp, there's, like, I think the enemy, like, the bad guy, like, goes off all fast, and they're like, do you hear anything? And she's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, with your extremely powerful cat ears that you have, because you're a kitkin. And she goes, oh yeah, I forgot I had these. And then she puts her hands to her ears, and she's like, I'm going to do a listen. All right, I'm doing a listen. And it turns out that she does. Like, she does that, and then she's like, oh, I can still hear him. He's over there. But it's really funny how until that part, they're just like, everyone just immediately is like, hey, let's ask the girl with the giant ears if she hears anything. And she's like, I don't understand why would you think I would hear something? Oh, just because I'm the kitkin. You assume I'm going to be able to hear things. Turns out you forgot something important, which is that I'm a loser. What's up?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I
only have one more, but you go first.
I just wanted to say that I forgot I had a really, like, one of those dumb creepypasta theories. Maybe Tatsuya is the one who's been in a coma this whole time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you can have that for your favorite creepypasta.
I unfortunately didn't take a screenshot of this or get the context, so I don't know what. But at some point, actually, I think I know. I think it's when we get to the bottom of the lake cave dungeon. Everyone is seeing all the weird gas, and everyone's starting to get a little agitated and freaking out. And goes, simmer down, everyone, simmer down. No, it's Roppel specifically. She tells him to simmer down. But then the big monster appears, and she goes, I take it back, simmer up. Just cute. That's everything. Also, one small complaint. We learn about how there's a cool ancient chapel ruin, and how underneath the cool ancient chapel ruin is an underground lake. You go and you click on the chapel ruin, and then you're just in the underground lake. It's like...
Yeah, you didn't get to go to the chapel ruin.
I want to go to a cool chapel ruin and then find the secret passageway that goes to the cool lake. You can't just tell me there's a cool ancient chapel ruin and then not let me go there. Lame. Super lame. It could just be an example. Maybe this isn't content at all. Maybe this is just, the writers wrote it and the designers were like, okay, cool, cave dungeon time. But, it could have totally been like, it was going to be 2 dungeons in a row, like literally 2 in a row. And they're like, okay, maybe we don't literally need 2 dungeons in a row. Let's just have 1 dungeon. But still a little bit lame.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for the week. Sam, remind us, what are we playing next week?
Next week, we are playing the next 2 chapters, which will be 9 and 10 out of 11. So then our final week will be 11, which means that we are 2 weeks out from our next game. But instead of voting like we normally do at this point, we just get to tell you that it will be Tales of Symphonia, available on the PC for $5 basically all the time. also available on the PS3.
Wait, are we at sellout game already? Damn!
we are.
Holy shit.
End of season 3.
Hell yeah.
Quote unquote year. Quote unquote 3. Actually, you know what? This last year was shorter on purpose so that it wouldn't keep being off. I'm pretty sure this was like about a year, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Unlike the
I should
first
look it
2
up,
years,
see if
I think
we...
this one was actually about a year.
Yeah, but then Septerracore was 9 episodes. It took 14 weeks, so maybe we got back off kilter
I
there.
forgot it took that fucking long. No wonder Septerracore felt like it lasted
our last
forever.
sellout game was DQ5. No, it wasn't.
No, was...
Final Fantasy X, wasn't it?
No, it was Chrono Trigger.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, I think Chrono
Shit.
Trigger was about a year ago. Because Chrono Cross was definitely during like that first big depressive slump of coronavirus. So
yeah.
Chrono Trigger would have been around now. Hey, look at that, folks! We actually made a year into a real year. That's awesome though. I'm so fucking excited. Tell me again, what's Tales of Symphonia on? How do I play this game?
So it's on PC. It's also on PS3. The PS3 3 version, I know, is the quote-unquote definitive edition because the PS3, as it was back in the day, you couldn't port something to the PS3 that wasn't multi-platform from the beginning. Like, you couldn't later release the PS3 without putting special content on it. So it has special content that the Gamecube doesn't have, but the original was Gamecube. PS3 is a really good version. It's also on Steam, and on Steam it goes on sale for $5 all the time.
Oh yeah, I am super excited to play it. It'll be my first ever Tales of game. It's funny, even though it
was a lot of people's first.
That's the thing. Even though it is just one of many games in a long series, I kind of think of it as separate because it's so much more popular than every other game in the series. Like you'll have people who are like, "Oh yeah, I love the Tales series," and then you'll have people who like aren't JRPG fans really at all. They're not super knowledgeable of things. They just grew up with a GameCube, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love Tales of Symphonia," right? And to them, that's just like its own special game. They don't even think, "Oh, it's a game in a broader series." Yeah, it's kind of funny like that.
Wasn't there one for? Yeah, okay, it was Tales of Fantasia. That was the first one I played on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's because you were an emulator friend.
Yes,
and because that one didn't come over. Our first one was Tales of Destiny.
Fantasia's been on my list ever since I started emulating shit, but I never played it. So first Tales of game for me.
It's the only Tales game I've played, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I will say if you enjoy Tales of Symphonia coming up, which you will, it's spectacular. There's a reason it's super popular. But if you enjoy it, don't necessarily work backwards to see what you missed, because the big thing that Tales of Symphonia added, besides being 3D, was like fast combos and aerial combos in combat. So it kind of is like real time for no good reason, because you don't have combos on the PS1 ones that I've been playing, and it doesn't have the same game feel. It doesn't have like the skits and all of the stuff that like is Tales. So it's kind of like a soft reboot of the series. The old games are interesting, but treat them again like their own thing and not necessarily as the modern Tales series. But
neat.
Yeah, super excited for that. And then I have no idea what's going to win Best of the Rest, but I hope that it's not Final Fantasy X-2.
Which games are up for it?
So that we can so it's 10-2 and what did we do? Breath of Fire 4, Anacronox, and Hexyz Force.
And please don't choose Anacronox.
2 out of those 4 games are definitely fucking fantastic, and the other 2, who knows?
Yeah.
And the other one was up against Septerracore.
So, I have heard from many people that Anacronox is spectacular, and not by the same like. Because like weirdos said that Septerracore was good, and I like weirdos, and I am a weirdo. But like most people who PC gamed at the turn of the century, it was like, oh no, Anacronox was like spectacularly good.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully it's not as frustrating as
So
Septerra, but Septerra burned us on
So basically,
Western
you get to vote
JRPGs.
for us to play either incredibly basic, and I mean that in the most positive way, just incredibly beautiful, normal game. You can vote for us to play also extremely good, weird, gay game. We can play game that may or may not be good, but we don't actually know, but we at least know that it's extremely easy and for tiny baby children. That's Hexyz Force. Or you can vote for other.
I like extremely easy baby game.
Yeah.
Let's go with that one.
Breath of Fire 4 is the most beautiful game on the PlayStation 1, and I mean this aesthetically well put together, beautiful. They make all of the polygons, they have the textures at the same pixel density as the sprites, so everything blends in together. It's anime as fuck.
So
it's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So that's the one I'm leaning towards. But really, as long as it's not Final Fantasy X-2, because I don't want to play a Square game, I'm fine with whatever you guys.
Yeah,
pick.
that's true. I wouldn't want to break our Square moratorium, although in this case it's not our fault. So we'll still play to help vote for it. But yeah.
Vote how you feel. Every game here has pluses or minuses. All of the ones. It's funny, Lunar and Septerra were the weird picks that I was hoping I would have to convince people to do it, and y'all voted for those the first time. So the best of the rest is all good games. So you can literally pick whatever you want from it, and it'll be fine.
I am so glad we played Septerra when we did, because if we didn't, then there's the possibility that Septerra could have won best of the rest, and that would have just been such a supreme irony. We were already struggling with that game enough, but imagine if we had to struggle with that game as the game that everyone wanted so badly for us to play because it was the best one that everyone was so excited about. That would have been rough.
God. That would have been the greatest joke ever to play on us, and I would hate all of our fans.
We would have been owned so hard, and I'm glad that we weren't owned quite that hard.
Yeah.
Imagine forcing your mouth to say Septerra is the best
of the rest.
Yeah, because right now it's he forces us to play Septerra instead of fucking Anacronox. But imagine forcing us to play Septerra instead of Breath of Fire 4 or FF 2. Way worse.
Oh,
way worse.
That'd be fucking hilarious. I'd quit the podcast, but it'd be hilarious.
If you're in the dark timeline, send us a postcard about that, because that just sounds great.
but at any rate, very excited about about what we got coming up in the future, and I'm gonna say this even though it's a lie. Buckle up for the next year, because we got all kinds of great stuff planned. I don't actually know what we have planned. I don't remember.
Yeah, we literally planned out a 2-year Square moratorium and a 3-year Square moratorium, and we all were like, "This is great, it's awesome." And then earlier today, when I'm like, "Oh yeah, I should talk about Tales of Symphonia tonight," I'm like, "Wait, what are we doing the fuck after Tales of Symphonia?"
We talked about it a lot, and I have no idea. I just remember that it's probably cool, so look forward to that or whatever.
Yeah.
Look forward to it or don't. Those are your options.
If you like what we do here and you want to help support us and keep our lights on, you can head over to www.rpgbook.club, which will take you to our Ko-Fi, where you can donate and get access to our Ko-Fi timed exclusive series, Book Club no Kuseki. We have recorded 3 episodes of it so far. It's super fun. Is me, good friend Bernard, and our son Matt is finally has been recorded, and it's hilarious. So the first 2 episodes were really, really short because the game is paced very weird for our format. Every chapter is 4 or 5 hours of game. That's normal, but because we separate it for memorable moments, about 90% of this game is memorable moments. It's you walk from point A to point B and you banter the whole time, and that's why the game is awesome. So the first episode was kind of short. The second episode, my timer said 32 minutes when we started memorable moments, so we riffed for another 30 minutes on what would Final Fantasy VIII be like if it starred SpongeBob characters. So...
Well, now I need to go listen to it. I've been waffling on whether or not to listen, not because I don't want to hear the three of y'all talk, because I like all three of y'all a lot and would love to hear that, but simply because I don't know if I want to spoil Kaseki or not. But you know what? It might be time to just admit that I do not have time to play these games and probably never will, and just listen to the fucking pod, because that sounds like a really good time.
Listen to the podcast and read the Wikipedia summaries, and you're good enough. But in addition to the exclusive episodes, the backers also get to vote on the aforementioned Best of the Rest poll. So you can force us to play Septerra instead of Breath of Fire 4. If you're in the dark timeline, of course.
Yes, not in this timeline.
Not in this timeline. But it also has links to our new merch shop that I just put up if you want to wear our cartoon faces on your body. Highly recommend. The shirts are very good quality. And I think that's about everything that I wanted to bring up, all of that. Shout outs to everyone in the Discord. They're all our best friends, and if you hang out in the Discord, you will realize that we haven't been gone for 3 weeks. I just haven't been able to update episodes. We're still active in the Discord. But that will be it for the week. So for RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Elias Sailor Eli.
And I'm Maddy Grace Webbin. Simmer up, folks.
Bring on the birds. Shouldn't do this, but I think I should. So my new computer that I'm about to be talking about has big old windows on the side that are easy access. So it's not like I have to unscrew anything. I can literally just open the side of it. So should I open the side of it and put some of my Digimon figures inside on the big open space so that I will have interior Digimon inside of my computer?
Or you put a little file
cabinet.
No. I was gonna say you put a small figurine of the water starter from the second generation of Pokemon inside. That way you have an interior crocodile alligator. No? Y'all know that one? All right.
No.
It's an esoteric reference. Don't worry about it.